How does someone come from a 27-year career in the Marines to transitioning out, retiring for 3 months, and then coming in, starting a business from zero and scaling it to $15 million in just 3 years, on track to be at 19 million this fourth year? What does that take? You're about to hear it today on the podcast.
Welcome to the Built for Profit podcast, powered by IQ for Profit. Because when you know better, you can do better.
It takes a really special type of personality to be able to lead Marines, first of all, and then to take that skill set and transfer it to civilians and be able to lead that type of group in sales for the whole company. So we have with us today Drew Raymond from Superior Fence and Rail. And what he has scaled to 15 million in 3 years is very impressive.
And his leadership style, his operations, how he hires. I mean, this is a great example of collapsing that curve of learning.
And for someone who took the skills that he had learned in the Marines and then applied them to a business and showing us really that some of the things that you're looking for are intangible. That's well put. So Drew, welcome to the Built for Profit podcast.
We can't wait to unpack this.
So we're taking a little bit different approach to our interview with you, Drew. And when I say interview, it should just be a conversation. We don't want you to feel like you're being drilled with questions here. But when we talked to Jane first, she had such great things to say about you and about specifically the background that you had first with the Marines and then the success that you're having here. And one of the first things that we were thinking of is then you drive a high level out of people. Because it can't just be that like your team that you led in the Marines just magically were these phenomenal people. And the common denominator is that you're great in the leadership aspect. So talk a little bit about like, do you think that people just can handle different things and you help draw that out? Or from a leadership style, what do you see there?
That's a very interesting observation there for sure. It has always been this way. Even in the Marine Corps, I've been a junior person and put in charge of people that were over me, higher ranking. I was a staff sergeant and had the least amount of time in grades. So it's always been a very unique dynamic everywhere I've been to put in a leadership position and be asked to lead people that were probably senior to me in most cases, right? Think what I've learned over 27 years in the Marine Corps and then my own entrepreneur stuff. And even I had a 2-year stint in a construction company is that people really like structure and process. I probably started about 15, 18 years ago, really understanding that the Marine Corps and everything you do is really about people. So I never tell people to do things. I always ask them, hey, can we? And it's always a we, right? The way you phrase things gets a better response, as well as the way I respond to negative events. I always say that the way I respond to bad news will determine how much bad news I get, right? Which then allows me to understand where the problems are within the organization. And we really take a collaborative approach to how we solve problems, right? I don't know that I'm phenomenal at necessarily any one thing. I just seem to be able to collaborate with a lot of different folks and maybe bring out the best in a lot of people.
You know, everyone listening basically is a business owner, entrepreneur. So they're all leaders themselves. So I think we both heard the we, but that's because our ears have been trained to. Can you give us a few other examples? Like what are things that you say that get people on board like that?
The Marine Corps philosophy is centralized command, but bottom-up refinement, right? So even though I send out the plan, I expect those that are under me to then refine that process and the plan with me, right? And I literally keep my door open right here. I have it closed right now because we centralized our office and everything that goes on. I have my door open and I can hear that office churn and everybody's on the field, procurement, commercial, residential, sales manager, phone ringing, procurement or permits, all that type of stuff, right? That allows me to understand the context of where we're at and what's going on and where the issues are and who I need to go talk to.
You said the way you handle bad news determines how much bad news you can get. Again, give us an actual example, like just take it in and sit with it for a few minutes before reacting, or tactically, what does that look like?
We had a subcontracted crew that was working with us over in our Albany location, and we had rented them an Airbnb for that week. And I get a phone call at 8:30 in the morning. Hey, the Airbnb is on fire. Literally, the kitchen is on fire. So the way I respond to that can be, getting upset, raising my voice, or I can say, okay, sounds like you need to Get over there, figure out what's going on, talk with the crew, talk with the fire department, police department, all that stuff. Once you get through with all of that, let's recap here 10, 11 o'clock, whenever you get done with that, and we'll figure out what's going on. You give them time to solve the problem and know that you're there to support, but you don't grill them with a ton of questions. Or if I get a customer complaint, just got one yesterday, go to the team, what's going on here? You were able to solve the problem within, say, 20 minutes. We had a solution for her and she's on the schedule for next week, right? But if I go up flying off the handle, or if I get upset every time someone brings me something, they're less likely to bring me the problems that we can help solve together, right? I don't get everything, but the stuff I do get, I want to make sure I'm supportive in the way that we solve that instead of being reactive to the situation.
Really, at the end of the day, you're developing them. They're getting their skill set. They're flexing that muscle problem solving so they can expand their bubble, if you will, which is a great leader.
Yeah, absolutely. And so intentional, because the way you described isn't the natural way to, I'm going to use the word natural, the natural way to respond, Drew. Like the natural is drilling with questions, hit them with things.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know how she would react if I called and say, guess what? The studio's kitchen is on fire. I don't think she'd be quite as cool.
Sounds like you've got it handled. Call me back at 11.
Yeah. Just make sure coffee's still ready.
Yeah.
I love asking this question. I know I do it a lot because it's interesting to me how there's so many franchise brands. You don't need me to tell you that. And there's wonderful consultants that you connect with, and it's kind of like match.com, right? They try to connect you to something, but you went from a very successful career in the Marines, and then you were transitioning, which a lot of people do out of the military. I have a son as well. And what made you go into this particular franchise, this industry?
So coming out of the Marine Corps, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to retire. That lasted 3 months. Not a good option for me. Started as a project manager in a construction company. And within 6 months, I had moved from basic project manager to run in the state of Connecticut to run in New England, second in charge, $40 million division. And I got upset and I reached out and I said, hey, give me the 10 best trades-based franchises. I want a lower initial investment, higher rate of return. Ready to go. He gave me 10, evaluated those 10. And when I met Zach and the team at Spear Fencing Rail, it made sense. Military veteran. I like the processes. I like the procedure. Plus, when I looked at it, I'm like, I'm not an electrician. I really don't understand electrical or HVAC, right? Like, I want to know how to do it, right? To where I can teach and train everyone. Fencing didn't seem extremely difficult, although I knew nothing about it. But all the support systems and everything kind of fit what I was looking for, is home services, trades-based, I could start small and grow. So that's kind of how I made my decision.
No, and it's really words of wisdom, because that's very much trending, if you will. A lot of people don't know how to do home services and be able to change tires or fix things. And also, it's easy entry. You don't need a lot of overhead office and when you first start.
I'm going to switch gears, Drew, because this has been on my mind.
Yeah.
I just keep thinking about the leadership aspect. And one of the things that Shay and I have talked about a lot with other owners too is we're going to talk about hiring, because I'm guessing that this is something that you've mastered. And one of the conversations that we have a lot is, do you hire for skill? Like, you've already done this, so you know how to do it. Or are you hiring for the intangible things like mindset, resiliency, things like that?
Integrity.
Yeah, integrity, right? So as you hire, Drew, with the numbers that you have put up, it lets me know you're hiring and leading in a great manner. So talk us through some of the things that you look for as far as non-negotiables as you're hiring team members.
That's interesting, because I almost always go away from people with industry experience. If you have a construction background of some sort, that's great. But all of my job descriptions are based around character type qualities and outcomes that I'm looking for, and not necessarily the skill of, do you know? To me, it's about the quality of the individual. Do you have the grit and the perseverance and the ability to make decisions, right? What is your ethical, moral backgrounds, that type of stuff. So a lot of my questioning and interviews goes around those type of topics. To me, that's the more important part, is, can you find the people with the same drive and mission that you have? And then I tell everybody, I could teach anyone.
Yeah. And high performing people who have teams that stick. I guess that would be the way that I would describe it.
Right.
Because most people hire off the resume, but people who have led great organizations, we've noticed that that's a common theme among their answer, is that it really wasn't off the resume.
You're looking for success patterns because, like you said, you can train people on skills, but it's really hard to get someone a personality or character.
Even when you come into the organization, though, and we've tried to pre-screen for those things, we find that living up to the expectations can can be challenging as well. I'd love to say we have zero turnover. That's just not construction, right? It is what it is. But my methodology is every time someone quits or gets fired, that's an opportunity to level up that position.
And let's be honest, when people are interviewing, they're kind of on their best behavior and they have a tendency to lean in and tell you the things they think you want to hear.
Absolutely.
It's almost like dating.
I was going to say, it's like the first or second date. Like you're getting the best version.
Yes.
Yep. Sorry,
It's the
honey.
best you're ever going to see out of them.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit about numbers, because I always say you keep score and the score gets better and it tells a story, right? Numbers tell a story. So 3 years ago, you launched your entrepreneurial journey. Talk about your success, where you are today in your revenue. If I understand you, is 15 million. That's a pretty good growth pattern.
That was 2025.
I stand very corrected, Drew.
Catch us up to speed.
We went from zero to, it was just Hartford. I merged with Rhode Island. So if you count 23 with partial years, we were at about 3. In 24, we were at 6.9. Then we added Albany in February of 25 and then bought Western Connecticut at the end of 25. So did about 15 last year and on pace for about 18 to 19 this year, which is a pretty good growth pattern. And we just signed the largest project in spear fence and rail history last year at 2.3 million and finished that up about 3 weeks ago. So that's been good. And we're continuing to grow. But one thing I have to do is look at, okay, the model that we have, does it sustain us to get to 30, 40 million? Or do we need to rethink the entire, building blocks and foundations about our meetings, about our structure? That's where my head goes, because as you scale, you see that's working, that's not working. We need to pivot from there and go do something else or figure out the problem or a solution to that problem.
That's a really good point, because, I always say it's like the universe gives you a development opportunity. You're in a development program. You just don't realize that, right? Your bubble, like you go, like, I solved these problems. I rocked this. We did, 15 million. And then your next bubble goes new problems, new opportunities, new challenges.
Yeah.
And even scaling with people. I think you'd get bored, Drew. I just met you. I would get bored if you were just sitting around going, showed up today and everything was perfect. Nothing was on fire. Just a normal day.
I've said this week, we got to rethink the model every time we get to a point where, that doesn't look like it's working anymore.
So I'm curious, Drew, because the background that you came from is so strong on, like, exactly what you're there to do, the mission. And I'm not saying like the mission that you're out in the field to do, but like the mission of what you're serving, what you're doing is so clear. So as you transitioned out of the Marines and then, we're venturing into something new, what are your goals now for either like the legacy that you're looking to build, or I'm assuming that has evolved a little bit?
Yeah, the transition's tough, especially when you spend 3 decades in the military, right? And then you're like, so what am I supposed to do? Full disclosure, I struggled a little bit in RHY, not from a performance standpoint. I struggled with purpose, right? What am I doing? Like, am I contributing to society in a positive manner and feeling as though I'm giving back like I did while I was in the Marine Corps? And so that's one of the things that pushed me into business ownership is I can serve my community instead of serving the nation, right? And making sure that we can do first-class customer service and provide a solid product and experience for customers. So what does that legacy look like? I don't know, to be honest with you. The thought of what's my legacy or where do I want to be in 5, 10 years has been a little bit on the back burner as we just continue to push and grow and develop and try to build new things. And yeah, I don't think about it because it almost, to me, it's a little bit selfish of like, what do you want to be, remembered for? And I go, I don't know, just hard work, do what I'm supposed to do, right? Build a great organization that feeds a bunch of families and serves the community.
I want to pause here just for a second and celebrate what a great win. But really, everybody, when they start entrepreneurship, they start at zero. And you said it 3 times now. And I appreciate that because it's true, right? You can say clean slate or not, but the part that everybody goes into business for, right, is the unlimited opportunity. There's no ceiling. And I think sometimes people forget that there's the zero, but then there's no roof.
If you'd have told me 3 years ago we'd be here, I'd have thought you were crazy. And yeah, here we are.
And Drew, you wouldn't be the first person to call me crazy. She does it regularly.
Oh my gosh. I appreciate the honesty with coming from struggling with the aspect of purpose. Owners don't talk about that. And that's a real struggle that many people have, which leads them to entrepreneurship a lot of the time, which is a great path to end up on. But especially when it's almost like an identity aspect of what someone was doing prior to kind of what they shift into.
especially being in service, you're showing up with a purpose there. And I think people are built that way. I mean, it's in my office. It says a life without purpose is an unfulfilled life.
Every day I woke up, I knew that I was a Marine.
Yeah.
And my duty station would change, my deployments would change, everything. But every day I was a Marine, right? And I loved instructing at the basic school and giving back to the junior officers and stuff like that. And then you get out, and on a Friday, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then on Monday, no one remembers your name, right? Someone else is in your position. It's like they've moved on, right? So now what? What are you going to do? So then trying to find what's going to fill that void was challenging.
I appreciate you sharing that, because I know that there's a lot of people transitioning in many things, especially out of the military, where I think you're very camaraderie, mission driven. I can speak only for my experience as a military family. You go to different bases, they still have that camaraderie, that community, even though it may be new. And I don't know if this particular brand is this way as well, but there's a lot of brands that give military incentives to support that transition to entrepreneurship. Share something with your fellow service members out there about that transition, entrepreneurship. Give them some either words of encouragement or warning labels.
You don't realize how much of an asset you are. And when I was at RHY for 2 years, what I realized is my work ethic, my attention to detail, my ability to problem solve seemed to be much higher than my peers that have been there much longer, right? The whole company was like, who is this guy and what does he do? But wasn't that I was doing anything special that I wouldn't have done in the Marine Corps. That's just the way everybody around me approached the job, right? So knowing that you have a lot more to offer than you think you do, because you were just a Marine, just a soldier, just a sailor, whatever, right? There's a lot of people that need that type of talent. I actively search for veterans to join my organization because I can give them a task, tell them why we're doing it, give them the end state, ready to go. I don't have to tell them anymore because they already know what that means.
Nice.
So
Yeah, that's
we
powerful,
have
Drew.
I
in
hope
our
that's a good
organization.
community service announcements where people do support, right, the veterans. And it sounds like you might be hiring. Is this a recruitment ad?
I'm actually looking for people right now. I feel like that's all I do anymore.
Yeah, when you're growing that quick. All right, we've got some rapid fire questions that we want to give you. Just a couple, Drew. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. You talked a lot about standards. What is one standard that you refuse to compromise on?
Integrity, right? Doing the right thing for the right reason, even if no one finds out. I make a joke sometimes, integrity is like virginity. Once you give it away, you can't get it back.
That is true.
And she's worried now. I'm going to repeat that.
I heard it was like, Shay is gonna use.
And I will give you credit for a little while, Drew.
Okay, if we're looking at other business owners, what's one thing that other business owners should stop tolerating immediately?
Poor performance. When you fire someone, you probably should have done it a couple months before, right? In most cases. And when you fire them, you find out everything was not happening.
I was gonna say a lot of people are cringing right now because they're like, Drew, how did you know?
All right, Drew,
Yeah.
complete this sentence for me. All right. Fill in the blank, like third grade. Success becomes much easier.
When you understand your mission.
I like it.
Right?
Yep, I do like it.
Okay.
Could be a bumper sticker. I can see it.
That's right. Okay, last thing on that. How do you convey that mission to other people, Drew? Because with the Marines, it's I'm not saying it's pretty clear, but everyone knows the big picture of what you guys are there to do. When we're running companies, sometimes people are just looking for a job. How do you get them intrinsically motivated and relay that bigger picture mission to them?
One, it's on our wall. Two, it's in every job description, right? It's in every interview. We do a motivational quote on every op sales meeting. Everything that we try, that this is kind of one of those things we just talk about. If you don't talk about it, if it's just a bumper sticker that's on a wall or something and you don't reinforce it, then that's what it is. It's just on the wall, right? So we try to reiterate what we're doing. And usually about once a month, I get something that goes, okay, time to reinforce, right? So then we have a discussion on why we're here and what we're doing and why customer service is so important to us, right? Why, when a customer calls in, if you're within an hour calling them back for whatever reason, right? We need to have a discussion because that's why we're here, right? Without the customers, we don't have fences to install.
Yeah. At every business, no matter what business you're in, we always joke about this. You're in the people business.
100%.
You don't get away with it. It doesn't work that way.
We've tried.
From your problems, right? You just got to call somebody and figure it out.
That's right.
Is there anything that you want to share with our audience, or like, this is your moment? Words of wisdom, something you want to say?
One thing as an owner, I think I struggle with at times is doubting that in the the leader or the person that can take this organization to the next level. Because we talked about, new problems as you scale, right? And it's always, do I have the capabilities to do what the next level is asking me to do, right? And what I've realized is that I do. I just may have to learn a new skill set or ask a new set of questions or call a new friend or read a new book or whatever, right? But I think it's the inner critic that sometimes beats us up more than the rest of the world, right? I would say in most cases we just have to put our nose down and make it happen.
I think everyone thinks really successful or confident people don't have those moments, what I call imposter syndrome. With that being said, can't wait to see that 30 million success scorecard here in the near future. You'll have to let us know when you hit it. We'll celebrate.
Yeah, we're
And
following up.
so much enjoyed visiting with you. Love your leadership. I hear your passion for your people. That always makes a difference. And we know you're hiring. So only good people with high integrity show up at Drew.
That's right.